Hello, Arielle.
Hello.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. All right, let's get Josh on here. So something crazy happened to me yesterday. I recently moved to, hi Josh.
Go.
So I recently moved to Georgia, as all of you know, and I was helping my mom move plants, and I heard this rustling in the bushes, and I look over, and there is this gigantic black snake crawling up the side of the house. And the first thing I thought was, oh my God, I have to move back to Manhattan. So it made me think, how many people that are fleeing Manhattan are going to have these experiences with like nature and things that happen in all of these normal like suburbs and rural areas that are just gonna be like, oh my God, I made a huge mistake.
I don't even know what I would do if I saw a snake. I think if I literally saw a snake, I would probably A, scream, B, burn down the house, C, book a flight via any airline, even Spirit. I would come. I don't come back. I'm coming. I'm coming home.
And guys, my poor mom is on a walker, and I ran so quickly, it was like a fight or flight response. Just left her standing right where she was.
Well, at least you didn't fight her. I think flight was the right choice for what you do to your mom, not fight her.
Oh, I just had to go. I was high stepping out of there.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh my God,
guys,
that's so true.
Yeah, I know, right? Friday's edition of the Morning Mint, the May 7th edition. Today is May 7th, and we're going to talk about the Hamptons, and we are going to talk about New York City rental market. And I want to introduce the panel here. We have all agents, all fantastic agents at what they do. We have Miss Arielle Carraha, Mr. Joshua Juneau, and Miss Katie. How do you now? Is it Haggerty?
Haggerty. Katie. Yep, Haggerty.
Katie Haggerty. Now,
are you on your boat?
What?
Is she on a boat?
Yeah,
oh,
Josh.
We're gonna get there.
You know what? We were.
So, fun fact about Katie is she lives on a boat. Katie, tell us about your boat.
Yeah. So, guys, out in the Hamptons. Can you guys hear me?
You're breaking up a bit, but we got the gist of it.
Okay.
You're on Lake Montauk, near the docks, and you live on a boat. I think that is
Mother's Day
high
weekend.
level, the most important point.
You guys lost me. You did lose me.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Fun fact about Arielle. Arielle, can you tell us about your pet?
I was hoping that would actually come up. I'm so excited. I have a bunny rabbit. I have to say it quietly because my landlord doesn't know. And I'm hoping she doesn't thump too hard while I'm in this video. Thumper, real thing.
And don't you live in a Brooklyn apartment with a bunny rabbit?
I sure do.
Oh,
Very Brooklyn of you.
Incredible. Josh, what's your fun fact?
I didn't know I had to have one, so I guess my fun fact is that I am a Bravo celebrity and that I am a cash cab winner. You can't get more fun than that.
That's true. Josh is excellent at trivia. We used to live together, and watching Jeopardy with him was miserable. Let's jump into the Hamptons, and I want to start with Miss Brenda Earl. Brenda Earl bought a property in the Hamptons in 2002 for $22 million. 42 acres, 20,000 square foot property. Can you guys guess what this property is in contract for, or what the last list price of this property that is in contract was?
145.
Oh, you cheated. You know, 145 million. That's about a 600 30% appreciation in an almost 20-year period. Katie, is this normal, that kind of appreciation in the Hamptons?
Well, these are record gains, of course, and especially with the pandemic. And I will say the one thing with the Hamptons is there's so many billionaires out here right now, and there always has been. But now I think as prices are inflating so much and going up 30%, the median price range is actually 30% higher. However, it's right now we're finding that range is the highest in East Hampton. But back in the day too, even before the pandemic, the amount of billionaires and musicians, artists, famous people that always came out to the Hamptons, they weren't fleeing New York because of the pandemic. They were just coming out here for a break. And I think the beauty of the Hamptons just kind of shows you that increase just brings out the magic of the Hamptons. But I really think that these are just record gains right now. And I don't know if that will continue to go up any more than it is at this moment.
It's definitely going to be interesting to watch. Now, somebody with $145 million or more, we don't know what the actual contract price is. That is a new level of wealth coming into the Hamptons. Is this an outlier, or is this something we're going to see more of as the Hamptons becomes primary residence instead of secondary homes?
And I think that's the perfect point, Austin, is I think that people are going to have their primary residence here. I don't think that they're going to ultimately always leave New York City. I really feel that it's just an escape, but it always was an escape, even before the pandemic. And I think it just elevated a little bit more because of the pandemic. But I will say that you can go back in history that the Hamptons has always been a place for New York City people to escape to. But I think even though it's going to be their primary residence, they will still go back to New York City because it's not that far between the jitney and the trains. I think that in even like private airports here, I think no matter what, the billionaires will always come out here, but they will always be in New York City too. It's just a way for them to escape their hard work. Or back in the day, Rolling Stones wrote all their music out here. So no matter what, I don't think it's truly just the pandemic. I think it's just the Hamptons in itself that people want to get to.
I love that Rolling Stones fact. And I'm curious, I'm wondering if we're going to see that New York City, instead of the primary home market that it was, becomes a pied-à-terre market, where the Hamptons becomes a primary. It's going to be an interesting switch there. Now, we have a few more stories about this crazy appreciation that's happening. The Shutterstock founder was just listed in Bridgehampton for $52 million, which is $12 million more than he paid 7 years ago. And David Walentes just listed his Southampton home for $35 million, 3 times more than what he paid 2 years ago. Let's talk about this. Is this, you mentioned earlier, you don't think that this is going to continue. Let's tell me more about that.
Well, I mean, honestly, I think the Hamptons will always continue. And I think that prices will drive not as quickly as they did with the pandemic. I don't think prices will drop. I think that prices will stay the same. It will not go up 30% most likely every year, of course. But I do feel that everybody, like what you had said, Austin, like people who have left the city and then all of a sudden you're visiting your mom and you see a snake and you can't wait to get back to the city. I do feel that people who have left the city for the Hamptons will always come back to the city, like I said. But I do think that the prices will always, stay high here. But I don't think that they're going to go up 30% over this year. But I do feel that no matter what, everyone needs an escape. No matter what city you live in, you always have to have a place to go. And I think that the nice thing about the Hamptons is it's not just one place. We have a span of, by the time you get to the first Hamptons, it's almost an hour and a half to the end, to Montauk. There's a place for everybody.
Right.
Now, if you want.
What do you think would need to happen for this huge year-over-year appreciation to continue? I'm thinking lumber costs and construction delays. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, there's definitely a delay now. There's a delay out here now, especially with building new homes. It's harder for people to find land. There's not a lot of land. So I really do feel, though, regardless, everyone's always going to want to come out here. Mm-hmm. And every client we have is so different. They're all very unique. We actually just listed right here on the lake a rental for $100,000 for June, $150,000 for July. And we are getting tons of requests. And a lot of people too, if they don't want to own, they know that they can always rent a beautiful mansion out here and enjoy their peace and quiet. But I will find that it is hard to find land here. So that is the biggest trick. It's really tricky.
Yeah, and that problem's you can't create land. But I'm curious, as a point of reference for the rentals that you just mentioned, what were they listed for in previous years for those same months?
You know, honestly, about the same amount. They really were before the pandemic even. So, okay, here's an example. We had a really famous client last year. I can't disclose the name, but or 2 years ago, who rented.
Is it Tyler Whitman?
It's Tyler. And rented at the Gurneys on the ocean. It was a 5 or 4 bedroom condo for $200,000 in August, and it was very easy. I mean, that will never change too. I think that the rental income here is always going to be an amazing investment. I would say like the cap rate of return now is about 10%. Prior to the pandemic, I would say the lowest would be 5% when the market was soft, cap rate of return, because everybody comes out here to rent and spends a lot of money. I would say the lowest monthly we will see is $25,000 a month.
Wow, that's incredible. You mentioned the market earlier, and the stats you brought up were median sales prices are up over 30%, and inventory is down 40% year over year. Do these stats translate across all of the Hamptons? And which are the more in-demand Hamptons? Which Hamptons are less in demand?
So right now, I would say East Hampton is the most in demand. So if we say the median is about 30% higher, so we're about 1.4 around the board, but East Hampton's highest.
What about
Montauk
the lowest?
has the least inventory, so that gets Montauk also has very low inventory, but East Hampton all around is the highest.
Interesting. What about Southampton, Bridgehampton?
Yeah, Bridgehampton and Southampton as well, but for some reason we're finding that based on all the statistics, East Hampton's number is the highest.
Got it. Well, Katie, thank you so much for the Hamptons talk. We're going to circle back to you in a little bit so you can tell us about some upcoming events in the area. We're going to switch gears to New York City rentals with Joshua Juneau and Arielle Carraha. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello. So there was an article released that said in a preliminary vote Wednesday night, the city board approved a proposal to increase rent on stabilized apartments and lofts by 0 to 2% on 1-year leases and 1 to 3% on 2-year leases. Last year, as we all remember, the board froze rents to alleviate the pandemic's impact on rentals. Arielle, I know you have an opinion on this. What does it mean, and who wins and who loses?
Yeah, so, increases for rent stabilization are at a halt, I think, until November. They're voting to get that increase. So what that means for tenants, if you're in a rent stabilized unit, you may be subject to an increase for 1 year, anywhere from 0 to 3%, depending on how they vote. And for 2 years, anywhere from 1 to 3%. If you're asking me who wins, who loses, I think tenants are definitely winning here. Prices haven't really caught up to where we were pre-pandemic. So to get a low price and then on top of it, to be able to get a little to no increase every single year, I mean, everyone should be, coming here in droves right now. So,
Josh, what do you think about that?
I don't disagree. I think the person who loses the most is probably me because I'm wearing a blue shirt in front of a blue couch, so I look like a floating head. Outside of that, I think that it comes down to the fact that when you have tenants, you have to keep in mind, normal escalation rate for year over year for an open market could be 5%, 10%. To see a lock-in rate of 1%, 3%, it's a very nominal interest year over year for a renter. So yes, rent stabilized, they benefit. But I also think landlords needed this. I think a lot of landlords, when we had rent freezes, there were a bunch of landlords who locked up their portfolios because, stabilization, it worked against them. They were losing income. So I think landlords need this as much as tenants do.
So correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like you were saying that by passing something like this, we'll get the chunk of that inventory that we lost last year because landlords took it off of the market, put back on because they're getting more of an acceptable return. Is that what you're saying?
Kind of. I think landlords took it off the market because they were trying to see what would happen, how long coronavirus would last. It would cost them more money to have a person locked in at a really, really discounted rate. And so for them to be able to at least be assured of the fact that they can at least still get an interest year over year, that's going to be important for them.
Got it. Awesome. Well, let's pivot to concessions. So we're hearing a ton about concessions right now. And there was an article released that talked about some of the crazier negotiating points that tenants are using with landlords right now. And they have more negotiating power than ever. So, Josh, what are some of the more interesting points tenants have been able to negotiate recently that you know of?
Yeah, I think when people think concessions, they think 3 months rent or that their broker fee is being compensated by the owner or an OP. I think that, it's been interesting. We've seen discount metrics for the past couple months of like 18% from from on market to actually renting. We're leveling off. We're seeing a lot of that changing. And we're also seeing that, free rents have gone from 1 month to 1.5 months now being at 2 months free rent. All of that to say those are cool. But I think the cooler things that are happening right now in the market are the fact that people are all getting a fair chance. We're seeing, because there's such a robust amount of inventory, we're starting to see that owners are offering 2 years as a lease term. Whereas before it was a 1-year lease term because they want to make sure they could get an escalation the following year. Right now they're getting 2-year locked in rent prices. That's awesome. We're seeing tenants who don't have the best liquidity or most liquidity, don't have make 40 times the rent, don't have the best credit. They're finally getting approved because owners need to take a chance on a renter because they need a person in that apartment to pay the rent. So 2-year leases, tenants who are no longer able to get them. And then also I think it's a huge win for pets. Which is a weird thing to say, but a lot of buildings that used to be not pet friendly are just like, whatever, we're going to take pets. For instance, Arielle and I have a building together, and our owner, when we first got this listing, it's 12 unit building. Owner was like, no pets. And I think we've now rented 8 or 9 of those apartments, and every single one of them has a dog. Because owner's like, you know what, people have pets. The pets need homes too. Hashtag.
I love how the winner in this equation, in this scenario, is the dog.
Listen, I think that we all know free rents. We've heard free rents. We've all heard OP market. That's been exhausted. We've heard it. But we have not heard pets have a win here. And you know what? Pet owners rejoice. Cheers.
So what's the difference between the inventory that's being offered with concessions now versus this time 2 years ago?
We're just going to overlook 2020. We're just going to not even think about that.
Let's just skip right over.
Awesome. So let's see, 2 years ago. May. So 2 years ago, this would be right before the new rent laws went into place for the 10th Protectionary Act. So 2 years ago, I think for concessions, it would have been a very limited market because concessions were only in a luxury market. Buildings that are low-rise to mid-rise buildings, less than 30 units per building, they didn't really have to offer concessions because they didn't have a lot of vacancies. Whereas we always saw buildings with plus 50 units all the way up to 250 units. These buildings had a lot of competition internally. So they had to offer free rents as an incentivization to get people into their buildings. So, concessions were limited to the luxury market. For the first time ever, we're now seeing small portfolios, small owners offering concessions of free rent, offering to pay the fee for the listing agent, or even compensating part of the fee for your tenant's agent. So, the market has expanded for concessions, going from a very limited market to almost every apartment on the market.
Wow, it's remarkable. Are you seeing that the farther we move into this summer? I mean, we're already swamped. Are you seeing that the farther we get into the summer, we're seeing fewer concessions, or are landlords taking advantage of the fact that these concessions are really moving their inventory?
So in terms of this opinion, I like to look at facts. It comes down to data. Miller Samuels does really awesome marketing reports. They're very robust in what they talk about. Specifically for Manhattan alone, I'm going to talk about that. We saw that 1 month, 1.5 months, 2 years ago, went up to 1.8 months to now 2 months being the average concession for a home. We saw a stabilization in our market of a discount metric being 20%, well, 18%. It's now down to 10%. So though we were very reactive when coronavirus first hit with, let's just offer free rents, let's try to entice consumers however we can, we've now created that new normal. So to answer your question, I think as we move into a summer market and banks are opening back up, schools are starting again, internships are happening, and people are coming back to the offices, our vaccination rates are very high. So I think as we continue to move further into this new normal, I think things that we had to do reactively will now become less noticeable. So to answer your question, I do think we're going to start losing some of the concessions, but it doesn't mean that we won't have good deals, or good deals won't be there to be had, because we really took a hit in terms of what prices used to be then and now what they are now, and it's now a more affordable city, which we needed. We've really been hoping for. Now we have New York City's affordable.
Yeah. In context to what it used to be, but yes, New York City is more affordable. Now, next week, I want to talk to you guys. So remember this. I want to talk to you guys about what seasonality for rentals is going to look like moving forward. I think that's going to be a really interesting discussion given the reshuffling that happened last year. We lost Katie, it looks like. So Arielle, if you could tell us about some events that are coming up in New York City, that'd be awesome.
Ooh, yes. So tomorrow's Saturday, right? We've got the Tribeca gallery walks. You've got over 50 galleries that are just waiting for people to come in and get their art on. So tomorrow from noon to 7, get out there, put your walking shoes on, and get up in those galleries.
Will do. Are you going to go?
No.
Not yet. Not ready yet. I understand.
No.
I have Katie's notes here for some Hamptons things that are coming up. So the 7th annual Family Day at Longhouse, and Mother's Day at Sonino Vineyard. So it looks like Hamptons, I stayed there for a while. They were never as shut down as New York City, but it looks like they're opening up as well. So I encourage everybody to get out, support local businesses, and just get moving again. Guys, we're out of time. This was the Morning Mint. Thank you for attending. Talk to you guys soon.
Thank you for having us.
Bye.
Ciao, everyone. Happy Friday.